Okay, if everyone is ready, we are going to go ahead and get started. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. It is 4 p.m. We're going to start our special city council meeting. This is a fire services workshop, and I'll call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock. And Madam Clerk, if you would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Estrada.
Here.
Councilmember Carwin.
Here.
Councilmember Sobek.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dinas.
Here.
And Mayor Zimmerman.
And I'm here. I see Ms. Kramer's here, but we are going to salute the flag, so maybe you could lead us, Rebecca.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So we have quite a few of our chiefs here that are going to be presenting, but we'll start with our assistant to the city manager, Rebecca Kramer.
So good afternoon, Mayor, Council, as well as members of the public that may be joining us via Menifee TV. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome you to our fire services workshop today in anticipation of the renewal of our cooperative agreement with the County of Riverside for CAL FIRE to continue to provide fire services beginning in July of this year. We wanted to take this opportunity today to provide you with an overview of the services provided by CAL FIRE, including a review of the investments that the city has made in recent years to improve service levels as well as response times, and then, of course, talking about our strategies to support future growth. County of Riverside has contracted with CAL FIRE to provide regionalized fire services since 1946, and CAL FIRE, through that cooperative agreement we have with the county, has provided for fire protection, prevention, rescue, and emergency medical services for the city of Menifee since our incorporation. So we are fortunate today to not just have one, but two of our fire division chiefs that are going to be leading today's workshop. So without further delay, I'm going to turn the time over to our newest fire division chief, Mark Scoville, as well as our outgoing fire division chief, Lonnie Olson, who will be leading our presentation. So.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. So with the historical knowledge that Lonnie has of the contract, I did not want to jump in the middle of this issue with being on for the last month. Lonnie has it well in hand, but this will be his last presentation to you guys. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. And without further ado, here's Lonnie.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Good to see you all again. So we're going to do a quick review of the fire contract, look at the state and county operations and what those benefits are within the contract and how they serve the city of Menifee, as well as a little detailed dive into the city of Menifee's fire operations and fire services that are provided under the contract. And then we'll close out the presentation and go over how we've kind of planned for the future within the city and increased growth and improvements to public safety. So as we look at the contract as a whole with CAL FIRE and Riverside County Fire Department, we look at things like economy of scale as a benefit, the resiliency that comes with being a part of a large fire department, and the surge capacity that it brings us. So when we look at what's listed there under county assets, that includes all of the city partners as well as the county that are under that county fire department umbrella. And some of the highlights or benefits that we've seen within Menifee, you'll notice there it says 9 brush engines that we have. So if you remember earlier this year, we started to have some issues with some of our off-road areas and access. One of the things that we were able to do this winter is we brought in one of those type 3, we call them brush engines, and put it at Station 68 so that during the rainy season we would be able to access some of those areas because it has 4-wheel drive. And that'll sit there. It's currently still at the fire station and will be there into fire. And when the beginning of fire season, it'll go back to its originally assigned fire station. But another benefit of what we do. And then all of the equipment that's also listed there, as well as support units that help us out on our larger incidents, 32 chief officers. That would include our Chief Bill Law is included in that, as well as Mark and myself. And then when we look at the state assets, you can see 17 wildland fire engines. Those are infused into the system and integrated completely within the contract and run calls on a normal basis all the way up through peak fire season. We saw the benefits of having all of those state resources during the Garbani incident earlier this year, where we had a quick moving wildland fire that quickly consumed some ground, and we were able to put those state assets into play and stop that fire, and we didn't lose a single home. When we look at the county asset piece, recently we had a large fire at the Kokorium property. That fire was a total of about 9 fire engines and 3 chief officers that were committed for well over a 4-hour period. And we talk about that surge capacity and resiliency. Not only did we have all of those resources available to us to mitigate that fire, but we also did cover behind in our fire stations to maintain that level of service within the city for the next 911 call. And then when we look at some of the more administrative pieces of our contract, includes human resources, information technology for all of the support that goes with our computers, as well as our dispatch systems, our 911 dispatch system that does emergency medical dispatch. That kind of goes along with our objective for 0-minute response. They provide life-saving treatment right from the jump as the 911 call is answered. Some really good stuff is happening with that. We're currently looking for national accreditation within that call triage questioning system, which would be a third-party reviewer at a national standard that gives us accreditation that we're performing as one of the highest level dispatch centers. So that's something that they're underway and going through evaluation right now. Other items in there, we have our arson investigation team. That team did over 99 hours of surveillance and investigation during our recent Target fire that ended up in an actual arrest. And they are currently still under active investigation for the Kokorium property. That has a total of 10 law enforcement officers that are completely dedicated to arson investigation and a battalion chief that oversees that program. And then when we talk about economies of scales, we talk about that supply and equipment piece. So everything from toilet paper into the fire stations to fire apparatus. One of the benefits that we've seen there is when we purchased our medic squad, instead of purchasing one and paying a lot higher price, we purchased a total of 7 throughout the county. And when we did that, we got about a 20% decrease in the cost on that apparatus. So when we start to look in at what is part of Menifee's fire operations and within the contract, there's a list of all of the personnel we get. We have our new EMS specialist as well as our executive assistant. And then when we get to the 4 fire engines, you see it says use agreement. So through the contract, we enter what's called a fire use agreement. So the city would be on the hook for a net new fire engine within the city if it opened a new fire station. But because it already has 4 fire engines, you're in a use agreement, what kind of amortizes the cost of that fire engine over 20 years. So here soon, Station 5 in Quail Valley is due through our fleet management system for a new fire engine to arrive. Those are costing about $1.1 million each right now. That's not a bill that's going to come to the city. You're already paying into that through that contract level service. We're just going to replace it once the new fire station is up and running. We can put it there. And then the medic patrol and the squad, as well as our ladder truck, are 100% city owned, but we also back those up with county reserve. So we have a county reserve truck that sits at our Menifee Lakes Fire Station as well as a squad. Anytime our stuff is in for repair or maintenance, those are the pieces of equipment that they jump on, and that's all covered through the contract and that county cost allocation. As well as the other stuff that is listed there as equipment is all within our fire stations. In total, there are 56 firefighters assigned to the city of Menifee. 4 of those positions are county funded, and that's through our contract for the ladder truck. So 4 of the positions on our ladder truck are 100% county funded, so 1 shift basically. And daily, that is 21 firefighters on a day here within the city. And then we also have our volunteer and reserve program as well as our Menifee Lakes Fire Explorers. And then our Menifee Lifesavers program that's run by Joe Silk, our EMS specialist, providing that same objective of that 0-minute response, provides basic CPR and first aid to our community and staff members within the city to ensure that between the time the 911 call goes and we arrive, hopefully somebody else is there. And we've seen a couple of success stories here within the city with that program already and people actually engaging from the community to help save lives. And then when we talk about emergency health care and prevention, that's something he's focused on. Looking towards the future. What are things that we can do to improve and reduce the demand on 911 calls to prevent people and get them the health care they need prior to dialing 911? So those are some of the programs that he's engaged in doing. And then for our fire marshal's office, we have our Deputy Fire Marshal Sonia Boo, along with a fire safety supervisor, 2 fire safety specialists, and 2 fire inspectors. And then for our service level, service delivery objectives, it's maintaining that under that 5-minute response time that we've talked about in all of our reports, as well as proactively engaging in community risk reduction and fire prevention and risk assessment, which is something that falls under the Fire Marshal's office that they've been doing through those annual fire and life safety inspections, as well as our providing 0-minute response, which has happened through our 911 dispatch, as well as our EMS specialist program and Menifee Lifesavers. And then if you look at the chart there, it kind of shows how as the population has continued to grow, so has our call demand. They've almost mirrored each other as they climbed up. And then in September of 22, we added Medic Squad 7 to the mix, and we saw a very significant improvement in our overall response time. And then when you put it on that chart, that's a great visual that really shows how impressive that benefit to the community was. Although our call volume has continued to significantly increase year over year, we saw a significant drop from 5.1 minutes to 4.6. That's over a 30-second average drop per call. When you look at that over almost 13,700 calls, that's a lot of time knocked off of responding to those calls. I'm going to come back to that slide. It'll tie in better if I go through this slide first and then get back to that one for planning phase. So this slide goes over the costs as the city has continued to grow. The city has invested significantly within its public safety and fire services. So some of the things to highlight that we've invested in: new ladder truck 76, the addition of Medic Squad 7 and the staffing for that, remodel and expansion of Fire Station 68. Fire Station 7, we did some interior improvements when we added those personnel to accommodate for those personnel being there. The new Quail Valley Fire Station number 5 is soon to open here, hopefully by the end of the year. And then we have plans already for a Northeast Fire Station in that Brookfield development, as well as our Fire Marshal's office. We added a Deputy Fire Marshal and a Fire Safety Specialist and implemented an annual fire and life safety program to improve public safety within the community. And then we also added our EMS specialist and our executive assistant within that time frame. As the city's aware, and it was just spoken to, the contract ends here at the end of June and will be up for contract renewal. To make a recommendation on the length of that contract, if the city was willing to go to like a 3-year renewal process, that would put you very much in line with what the CAL FIRE and County Fire contract is currently at. With that, there's also going to be changes coming to the contract. So currently, the CAL FIRE Labor Union along with the State Labor Relations Office are in the process of a labor negotiation. And a part of that labor negotiation is our firefighters currently work a 72-hour work week. And that is way above the industry standard. So they're looking to do a negotiation and reduce that down to a 66-hour work week. That is active negotiations that are going on at the state level right now, and I'll give you some reasons why they're kind of moving that direction. So we're trying to close that gap on the industry standards. A typical fire station, if you are our fire department, if you went around us, if you went to Murrieta, Canyon Lake, Riverside City, or Hemet, all of them work a 56-hour work week. That is pretty much the industry standard for all fire departments in at least Southern California, and pretty wide berth, actually. One of the major issues we're running into is with that 56-hour, most other communities have 3 shifts, right? So when one guy's off sick or injured, there's 2 guys that can still kind of split that workload and that work demand and have days off. With our system, we have more like a 2.5, almost a 2-shift system. So if one guy's off, the other guy ends up stuck in mandatory overtime, and we don't have the ability to get him off. So he ends up working more of an average, like a 96-hour work week. And we're looking at what the effects of that have caused on our firefighters through like a health and wellness standpoint. Also, recruitment and retention. We've had several conversations about recruitment and retention, and if you remember, I came up once and I was highlighting what we're doing actively with the military. Well, we actually did a beta program for that, and we took a gentleman that was coming out of the military, used the funding, the placement funding that the military had for him to put him through all of our training, got him completely trained up, and he was qualified to be a firefighter. And then at the end of that, he went and got a job with another department that works a 56-hour work week. So we went through all of that work. So we're having to come more in line with that industry standard to just keep up with the times and the recruitment. What that results in with the city is there's going to be a need for 3 additional staff to cover that reduction in their work week. That'll be coming out and discussed when you guys get to doing the contract later on this year. I'm gonna go back to that previous slide. So now as we move into what are we doing to plan for the future and maintaining public safety within the community? So we start to look at some decision points and things that help us and assist us in making those decisions. So this one looks at call threshold. And we can see what all of our individual units ran for 2023 there. And then the numbers at the bottom represent kind of a benchmark for where we start to plan for additional resources. So that number is based off of workload in a day and what a firefighter can actually do and number of calls they can run and still maintain their administrative, operational, and rest cycles. There's also multiple studies that look at about 3,200 calls being where a fire engine or a fire apparatus becomes so busy it's on a call and another call comes in and it's not available for it. And these are just kind of standard numbers to use as decision points as we talk about planning for the future. The other piece of that is figuring out, okay, looking at the city as a whole and as it continues to be very fast and growing, what would our fire station facilities need be long-term? So if you look at this, this is the 2020 census block, and the darker the shade on there on the map within the city is the more dense the population. And then you can see kind of the breakout there on the left in the key on how that population density is keyed in. So we teamed up with community development along with IT and the GIS team and started to look at, hey, can we develop a map that predicts population density within the future as well as some major infrastructure improvements. So this includes the Garbani overpass in it and major road improvements that would go in, and then took community development's general plan with all of the housing density. We put all that into it, and that's what your city looks like population density wise in 2050. But that is a static picture of what the city looks like. That's 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody home in bed, not including the commercial commerce and traffic that runs through it on a daily basis. And with that, we looked at how would we blanket or add additional fire stations and where would be the best places to locate those fire stations. And you can see those in the purple shields that are up there on the screen. So we already know about the Northeast Fire Station that is planned for the Brookfield development. We know there's going to be a need in the northwest area of the city as well as the southeast as the population densities and call demand continues to grow. The nice thing that'll happen is because we're under cooperative fire protection, that's not going to happen in a vacuum and only within the city of Menifee. Chief Scoville will keep contact with adjoining cities and jurisdictions to make sure that where those fire stations located and that they benefit the entire fire program. So. And that concludes my report.
All right, very good. Thank you. Is this a good time for us to throw some questions at you?
Absolutely.
I see some writing happening on both sides of me, so I think we do have a few. Council members, who'd like to lead off? Nobody. All right.
I will.
Okay.
I got a technical question there. One slide. What's the difference between a medic squad and a medic patrol?
Good question. So a medic patrol is half squad, half fire engine. So it has water, just not as much and not as much hose. So it would still be able to, we actually have a really good story of, it was prior to the medic squad being put into play, the engine was busy and attached to a call, and we got a fire or a trash can outside of a house, started to burn up into the house, but because it still had water and the ability, it went and put it out before it got into the house and caused any destruction. And that's kind of the idea.
So that new unit we got in Station 7, that's a medic squad?
Yes.
So before that squad was there, it was a medic patrol and a squad?
It was an engine, a fire engine, and we had the medic patrol, and then we didn't feel necessary to add another piece of equipment with water on it. We just put a squad there primarily to run medical aids.
Okay, so the squad is only medical aid. The medic patrol has water on it.
Yes.
I see. And the one we just added was just squad.
Was a squad, two-person squad. They'll still go to fires, but the primary design of the piece of equipment they're on is medical emergency services.
Understood. And is that equipment less expensive than the one that has water?
Yes.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dinas is next.
Well, Councilman Carwin beat me to the good question, because I was wondering that too. You mentioned that, the union's under negotiation, so you won't know what the final cost will be to the county and thus the city. My other question, you may not be able to answer it, maybe you have some insight onto it, but, right now, the state of California is looking up towards of an $78 billion shortfall. Based on previous shortfalls that the state has experienced, what impact does that usually have on CAL FIRE? Can we expect some pass-through costs or additional ones or anything like that? Are you aware?
Not that I'm aware of. Anybody want? That might be why I brought the fire chief. So he can answer to that one.
Welcome, Chief Weiser.
Yeah, I'm Bill Weiser. I'm the fire chief for Riverside County Fire and the CAL FIRE Riverside unit. So the question that I understood was, there's a state deficit in the current budget projections, what are their pass-throughs to the city? No, you just pay actuals for what CAL FIRE costs are now, and there would not be any kind of a change. We always look at our additional costs through our retirement PERS and that part of it. But right now, what we've gotten is currently they're projecting a 1-year dip in that. We're going to wait for the mid-year, or not mid-year, the May revise from the governor's budget to see if they're still planning on doing a 1-year reduction in our retirement. But right now, we're not seeing any uptick in that.
Great, thank you. Yep. That's all I have, thanks.
Councilmember Sobek.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you share about the brush engine that's at Station 68? You said it will leave during fire season. Will we get that back again next year?
I can't guarantee that. We are looking at what the long-term solution will be for the Menifee Fire Station. There's some other options out there when that engine comes up for the same replacement plan that we're talking about on the fleet management side. There's an alternative that looks almost identical to that fire engine, but it has all-wheel drive. And maybe that's the long-term solution. So we're in constant discussions. This is my boss, Chief Vike, that's sitting behind me, and you see him shaking his head because he knows we've been having these conversations of what is that long-term plan. So I don't want to say, yes, that brush engine's going to return, but that it's something that we are engaged in and working on.
Okay, and it's been helpful with all of our rugged dirt roads and mountain dirt roads that we have here. Okay. On the Krikorian property, you kind of ran by that really fast about the arson investigation. Could you share the process of that with us?
So our law enforcement bureau doesn't share a whole lot of that information, right? To keep the level of the
process of a investigation when there's an arson, just so we have an idea. You don't have to be specific to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So anytime we have any kind of major destructive fire, or we feel there's some kind of suspicion or need, especially if we have some kind of suspect information like we did in the Target one, our arson investigation team will come out. They will meet with the first 2 company officers to get kind of their feel of where the fire was, what they saw when they got there, start interviewing any of the witnesses that are within that. Then our primary fire captain or company officer that runs that initial call still does his own investigation and files his own report. Then our law enforcement officers go back and complete their own investigation in a separate report and dive a lot more into the law enforcement side of that investigation and looking at cameras and getting into that more detailed stuff from a law enforcement standpoint.
Okay, so you're working with, so they would work in this case with the Menifee Police Department, law
Absolutely,
enforcement?
yes.
Okay, and how long does an arson investigation, can it go? I mean, it's been a while since the Krikorian property situation happened. Does it?
I don't know that there's a set timeline. I think
Okay.
it's specific to the situation or when they get enough information to have a creditable case.
And do they make that announcement public?
It would eventually become public information, but none of it has gone out public yet because they're still looking into some
Okay.
stuff.
Okay, that's great. So I asked this question once before. It's probably been a couple years, and it was because of a workshop that I attended, learning that some fire organizations are using drones to help with triage. When they get a report, they're able to go out right away, assess it, and then they know what to deploy. Has CAL FIRE started any type of that use?
We don't have them going out and doing call triage yet, but we do have drones. I believe there's 9 assigned within the county. That comes with almost having to have a pilot's license, right? So we have specific individuals that are trained within that and have that available. And if we needed it on an incident, we specifically would request over the radio for a drone to come out, and it would come out to the scene.
Because in the workshop that I attended, it was, it saved money. It saved time and it saved resources. So I'm just kind of wondering, I got Chief Weiser here, so you're hearing what I'm saying, and I just like to know if CAL FIRE is looking in that direction, if there's any data, if it's a positive thing or a negative thing. Have we done it enough to even have data?
So currently, right now, our department is using our drones that are small, they're this big, to maybe a little bigger, right? To assist our company officers in making tactical decisions on the fire ground, whether it's a structure fire, a rescue, or a wildland fire. CAL FIRE itself is using technology and cameras and being able to see anomalies and using AI. That cameras are constantly, as you know, looking throughout the county and high points and all around. And when they see an anomaly of where there might be a little bit of smoke, they triangulate it automatically and then send that data to the command center that takes a look at it. We've been able to use that technology to dispatch units before any 911 has even started. So that technology is in place here in Riverside County, and we've used it successfully.
That is great to know. I look forward to the day where maybe, like in our city, where we have one on staff, and would benefit using that technology to cut down on response times, which, by the way, you're doing very good at already here, and just be able to help with that rescue efforts. So, okay, response times are down, even though population's up. That's great. And I like that we're doing the life-saving program. Just want to say thank you. I hope that it will be offered to a city council someday, and we'll be able to take that. So, thank you.
Mark's taking notes. He's got it.
All right, next question's coming from Councilman Estrada.
Hey, Chief, you were talking about your work hours. Right now, you've mentioned it's over 70 hours?
72, so 3 days.
72 hours, okay. And you mentioned in labor negotiations, the goal may be to ask for 66? Correct. Okay. And you mentioned our neighbors were at 56. Okay. Going back, since we renewed the agreement in 2021, has a 72-hour work week been going on since 2021, or is that something that's evolved?
No, we've had 72-hour for my 25 years in the department.
Okay. Yep. For the city of Menifee?
Everywhere, yeah, all of CAL FIRE, yes, and including the city of Menifee.
Okay. So what I want to get clarification on is, if you can give me a little bit backdrop into the history, how did our neighbors get to the 56 hours and Menifee's at the 72?
Because under the CAL FIRE contract, that was the labor negotiation of their work week. So that we have always been at a 72-hour work week for, I don't know the date of when we went to a 72, but it's been over the last 25 years. And those local cities did their own labor negotiations, and that was where their shifts fell within.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Chief Olson, I do have a question, and it was regarding helping us anticipate any future big purchases. In the past, we bought a ladder truck and we've purchased a medic truck. Do we have anything on the horizon that we need to start preparing for?
I think we're in a good place. We've got the Quail Valley Fire Station is going to be a little more strategically placed. That'll help out with response times and be able to put modernized equipment. We're already expanding our Menifee Lakes Fire Station. We've got plans for the Northeast Fire Station. I think we're in a position of observation looking at those numbers, and that'll kind of make our decision points as we get some of those pieces into play. When that Northeast Fire Station comes into play, that will be where that net new fire engine comes into play. So that'll probably be the next big piece. That's 1.1 million currently today. That will probably be the next big piece beyond the fire station improvements that we're doing.
All right, very good, thank you. And you know, when we were looking at some of the graphs that you showed of calls for service, and we noticed that Station 7 being one of the busiest, but we're seeing Station 76's numbers going up as well, and I'm just curious, and I know this is your world is deployment and the right equipment in the right place. I just wonder if a medic truck in Station 76 makes sense, or even sharing some time from Station 7 to help balance out. Because I know there's a lot of medic calls, and even residents will ask us, why did a full-size fire truck show up when somebody is having heart palpitations or something, so.
No, and that's kind of the plan that we're looking at, right? We're expanding that fire station because right now we just couldn't fit any more staff in it. So we'll build that out. We'll take a look at what all these improvements have done, watch those numbers, and then when the time is right, we'll implement that as a piece, depending on where that times out with the Brookfield development and the movement of Station 5. We'll kind of look at all those numbers. When we start to see that negative effect from that call volume, then I will go to, Mark will go to the city manager and let him know, hey, we're going to start to have an effect.
Got it. And I also just want to echo what Councilmember Sobek said. It deserves praise that our response times are coming down. So well done, and let us help you any way we can. So I do see Councilmember Sobek's back in the queue. So
Yeah, I just need a clarification, because you just mentioned in response to his question, to the mayor's question about Station 76 expansion. So that's kind of the first I've heard of this, at 76 expansion. Are you talking about a future fire station in the Brookfield area? Or are you talking about an expansion on site at 76?
Two separate. So the Northeast Fire Station would be separate from what we have in the design phase right now in the city we're adding 2 bedrooms onto the fire station and expanding their living space under the CIP project right now. And that is in design phase.
I think I remember that now. We've approved that. But when you said we're in a good place, are you counting the Brookfield Fire Station? Or are you just looking at that as a future when you say we're in a good place right now? Did you include the Brookfield area?
Yeah,
Okay.
with that, I think that's going to help with that development in Legato, and that'll kind of split that workload, hopefully take some off of Station 7, as well as that north end of Heritage for Station 76. That's a really good location to take away some of that work demand.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
okay, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
On when the issues of where you position different assets and things like that, you look at, the calls and where it makes sense to put this different apparatus. Do you look also at whether it's on one side of the freeway or the other to make, because my concern is we have a large earthquake or something, and then you can't traverse the freeway anymore, and then all of a sudden you're lacking services if everything's on one side of the freeway. Does that go into your planning?
Yes, yeah, we're looking at all of those pieces and trying to set up so that we're strategically placed in place of a disaster or a quick response time to that area. Yeah.
Okay, because it makes sense then to put one of the paramedics, like in 76, on the other side of the other side of the freeway, and just for that purpose. So I'm just wondering. Thank you.
All right, hearing no other questions, let me just do a couple formalities. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak, or did we get any correspondence on this item?
Neither. Sorry.
All right, very good. And so with that, I think we're looking forward to reviewing that contract and seeing the term, and also seeing the escalation in price, which it always does. But anyway, we'll go over that when the time is right. So thank you very much for the presentation today. It was very helpful for us to kind of get a refresher and just kind of see kind of where we are today, picture and time. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, if there's nothing else, this is a receive and file item, so we will adjourn the meeting, and it is 4:34, and thank you, everybody.